This Thursday, the International Energy Agency is warning the world is facing the, quote, biggest energy security crisis in modern history as the shutdown in the Strait of Hormuz continues to rattle the global energy market. Our Europe editor, Maria Tadeo, sat down with the agency's executive director, Birol, in an exclusive interview from Paris, where they discussed the outlook for Europe and, of course, the risks ahead.
I label this crisis as the largest energy crisis in the history. We had three energy crises up to now, two oil crises in 1970s, 1973 and 1979, and the 2022, after the Russia's invasion of Ukraine, in Europe we had a natural gas crisis. If I add how much oil and gas we lost in this all three crises, it is much less than what we lost in the Middle East crisis, Iran crisis now. It's a huge problem for the global energy system, global economy, for Europe and beyond.
And when you say this will trigger fundamental changes, especially you, and I want to reiterate this, you talk about energy, but also energy security. What kind of changes are you envisioning?
Because this shows us that the world is becoming more and more a dangerous place. And here the countries want to secure their energy supplies. This would mean that the countries will review their energy strategies, which technologies, which fuels they are going to choose, and with which countries they are going to work, from which countries they import energy, for example, and they are going to review their energy strategies, and this will have major implications for the investment and beyond.
And some would argue no continent has paid such a high price over its strategic dependencies than Europe. But before we get into that, I also want to ask you, for European viewers, in mid-April, you made some comments which obviously made a lot of headlines, certainly in Europe, about jet fuel. You warned that in 6 weeks there could be no jet fuel. That created a lot of anxiety among finance ministers and also just Europeans who thought, this summer, am I going to be able to go on vacation? Am I going to be able to pay for fuel tickets? What is the situation now? Because from the outside, it seems that very stressed out scenario did not fully manifest. But is it the case?
Yeah. So the reason I said this is very simple. Europe imports about 75% of its jet fuel from Middle East normally, and it is not finished. And when we look at our stocks, jet fuel stocks, they are diminishing. And we said that if Europe cannot find new sources of imports, we are going to have major problems in terms of flying. Now, in the meantime, Europe was able to get some jet fuel from United States and from Nigeria to compensate this gap from Middle East. So, which means that we are now sort of okay when we are entering the traveling season, but we are going to pay much higher for flying here or there.
And of course, that takes us to the idea that this is not necessarily a supply crisis, but a price crisis. I do want to ask you...
Exactly. But also, let's don't forget that many companies, after I made this announcement, many companies, the Lufthansa, the Scandinavian, the Ryanair, and all of them, KLM, they cut their flights. And
they cut their flights. And I do want, just on this point, because I think this is very important, some, certainly in Brussels, believed that statements like that, they were contributing to fear-mongering. Yeah. Is that something that you would go, no, this was my duty and I had to say what I said and I stand by those comments?
Our motto is very clear, no fear, no favor. We look at the data, we say give a wake-up call to the countries, and if we didn't give this wake-up call, they wouldn't rush to get from Nigeria and United States, and thanks to them, thanks to this our wake-up call, they were able to get some jet fuel from US and Nigeria, which barely now addresses the problem.
So in that sense, is the situation, the outlook now for Europe, looking relatively better compared to 2 months ago, or is this still uncertainty? Because we're seeing the Commission just got their forecasts for growth this year.
Yes, I wouldn't say better, but less worse than before.
And what does that mean this year? What are the scenarios that you paint?
Until, of course, we don't know what will happen with the Strait of Hormuz. I very much hope that very soon we get a fully an unconditional opening of Strait of Hormuz. If it doesn't happen, the problem with the jet fuel and diesel and beyond will be with us for weeks to come.